In the month of May, I made $1,423.33 sports betting. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it and how you can start making smarter, more profitable sports bets today. Now, before we get into it, I want to make one thing clear. I didn't make over $1,400 by betting massive amounts. I wasn't firing off $500 bets or risking thousands every single night. I was using a $25 unit size, and these results were not off of one lucky parlay. Every dollar was tracked over the course of the month, and the results came from following the same exact process every day. You see, most sports bettors spend their time trying to predict games. What I've learned is that profiting off of sports betting is less about predicting games and more about finding value in the market. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down my results, show you the exact strategies that I used, what type of bets I focus on, and the tools that help me find opportunities in the market all throughout the month. Let's first dive into the results. Now here we are pulling up my Pickit, a verified bet tracker, so that we can take a look at the results and dive into how we got here. Now we can see here I made $1,448.33 in the month of May, and this is exactly how I did it and what books I did it on. Now I have two different categories here, or tags here, DFS and then the Glizzy Lay. The Glizzy Lay, something we do in our Discord server. People love a 3-leg parlay. I don't know how it got named that, but the community chose that. But let's focus on the daily fantasy sports app. So we can see my main sports books that I used: DraftKings Pick6, Underdog, Better, and PrizePicks. A bit of caution, I was traveling out of state. I live in California, so I don't have access to DraftKings Onyx odds. Did a little bit there when I was traveling, made a little bit of money, and then a tiny little bit on Bovada. But as you guys can see, the main bread and butter here for me is the DFS apps, a little bit on DraftKings Pick6, but heavy volume on Underdog, Better, and PrizePicks. We can see here closing line value. In my entire month of May, I beat closing line value 88.7% of the time. Now, if you're not familiar with closing line value, it's measuring the price of your bet compared to the price of the bet when the game starts. So you can place a bet an hour before, 8 hours before the game starts, and it measures if you beat the line come closing time, when that bet closed and the game began. So you could bet something, let's say, at minus 110, and then at tip-off, it could be minus 140. Now, that means the bet got more and more juicy throughout the day, and you beat the closing line value. You got a better price than where the market closed at. So closing line value is a huge indicator if your strategy is successful or not. So now that we see the results, I've proven to you the results are here on a verified bet tracker like Pickit. Let's dive into the exact process that I take every single day to make profit like this. Now, in order to do that, we're going to head over to OddsJam, which is the software that I use. OddsJam is a software that scans the market, helps you find value, and it truly is a bettor's best friend. So let's take a look at the two tools that I used every single day throughout the month of May. These are my go-tos. OddsJam has a lot of different tools that you can get into. Today, we're going to break down the Sharp Money tool and the Fantasy Optimizer. So we can head into the Sharp Money tool, and the first thing you're going to want to do is filter to your sports book. So when I'm looking for my DFS books, I'm going to clear my filter, select Better, Underdog, PrizePicks, DraftKings Pick6. Now, you can set your filter to today. When I'm making my lineups for the day, I typically stick here, but we can show the results. It's a little bit later in the day, so we're not going to have a ton of volume going on, and it's a smaller MLB slate today, but when you have a 15-game MLB slate, when you're in peak NBA season, when you're in NFL season, you'll see a ton of plays pop up on this tool. Now, what are we looking at right here, and why are these tools so important for us to make our predictions? Well, we can see here, there's a prop in the NHL Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Shea Theodore under 1.5 shots on goal. And the numbers that we see here show that this is an insanely profitable play on Underdog. So we can see that there's $1,500 worth of liquidity here in the left. That means that on sharp betting exchanges like Novig and ProfitX, there are sharp bettors looking to get liquidity matched on the opposite side of this prop. So they're looking to get liquidity matched on Theodore to go over 1.5 shots on goal so that their order on the under can be filled. We like using the Sharp Money tool because it's scanning the market not only for sharp action, but where there's positive expected value compared to the price that a sharp bettor is looking to get. So we can see majority of this $1,500 is being placed at minus 121 and minus 120. That's the price that sharp bettors are looking to get filled on this, to take it at those odds. Well, in a two-man slip on Underdog, we get our odds locked in at minus 115 odds. On a two-man and a three-man slip, you're getting minus 115 odds. So we know that we're getting a better price on Underdog compared to what a sharp bettor is trying to put down on Novig and ProfitX, two very sharp betting exchanges. So we're not only knowing that this play is backed by a sharp bettor, but we know we're getting positive expected value. We're getting a better price than what the sharp sportsbooks are setting this prop at. And if we wanted to make our two-man slip right here on Underdog, we would add this prop to our Underdog app, take this prop here, under 1.5 shots on goal, and then we can see there's another Underdog play. I have this little red icon here because I already took this today, so I'm not going to take it again right now, but Justin Wobrowski of the Los Angeles Dodgers to go over 3.5 strikeouts. Now, we're not seeing as much liquidity, but again, we can get this at -115 odds over at Underdog when sharp bettors are looking to get it at -119, -116. So not a significantly better price, but we still do know there's somebody very smart on these sharp betting exchanges looking to set this market here and take this over 3.5 strikeouts. We can tail that on Underdog where we get an even better price. Now, as I mentioned earlier, on a peak sporting event day where there's a ton of MLB games, a ton of NBA games, a ton of NFL games going on, you'll see bigger liquidity and more plays popping up. Today's a bit of a slower day. I locked in some slips this morning. I'm recording this in the afternoon. We still have some plays popping up, but on a day where there's 30 games going on, you will see a ton of plays, and you might see plays with $5,000 worth of liquidity on them. That gives you even more confidence to take a play. When it comes to using the sharp money tool, pretty much anything that pops up on this tool is going to be a positive expected value play for you. I typically do not shy away from something if it has low liquidity. If you have a ton of options and there's 30 plays on it, you can stay away from plays that are under $500 worth of liquidity. But for a day like today, I'm perfectly okay taking a prop at $476 worth of liquidity because I don't have that many options on the slate, and I still do know that this is a mathematically profitable play for me to take. So that's the first tool on OddsJam that I use every single day. The tool that I couple this with is the OddsJam Fantasy Optimizer. So we can head over to this, and what the Fantasy Optimizer does is it scans the market. It compares your DFS book to sports books to see where you get an advantageous price or a better price than what the rest of the market is giving you. So we can take a look here on the PrizePicks tab. A 5-man flex play on PrizePicks gives you -118 odds for every single leg of your parlay, and it doesn't matter if you take the over or under. Now, that's very different compared to a sportsbook because, of course, on a sportsbook, a ton of player props aren't going to have the over and under weighted equally. So we can take a look at anything in the green is a mathematically profitable play on PrizePicks. One thing I always like to do is filter my minimum data points to 3 data points. I want to get as many resources as possible telling me this is a profitable play. And we can take a look here a little bit ahead in time. We have a UFC fight on Saturday. And I can see Dubin over 2.5 total rounds is a profitable play for a PrizePicks 5-man flex play. And I will say as well, I'm very comfortable taking all of these as a 3-man flex play as well. That is another optimal slip type. What you don't want to do is go take a 2-man slip on PrizePicks. When you break down the math in terms of positive expected value, a 2-man slip gives you the worst bang for your buck. Or in other words, is a long-term losing slip type that you can play. You may think, well, it's easier to hit 2 legs than it is 5 legs. You're correct, but the variance over time will not be in your favor, where when you're using a 3-man slip or a 5-man flex play, the math plays out in your favor long-term. Now, why would we add Dubin over 2.5 total rounds to our PrizePicks slip? Well, we can scroll over here and we can see, again, we're locking this in at -118 odds, or if we're doing a 3-man slip, -122 odds, when FanDuel, a sharper player prop book, has this valued at -128. We can see that Bovada has this line at 1.5 rounds at -250. Insanely juiced to go over that number. So going over 2.5 rounds on Bovada would still be a favorable bet. They're still favoring the over on that. We can see BetOnline -125, Fliff -130. We have multiple sportsbooks who all value this at a more juicy price than what we're getting on PrizePicks. Now you can filter through your different DFS app. Better Picks always has a ton of value for me. We'll see what it's looking right now. We can filter to 3 minimum data points, and we can see here, you could make a great slip with these 3 players right here. Aaliyah Boston of the Indiana Fever over 22.5 points plus rebounds. Again, on a 5-man insured play on Better, it's -118 odds. On a 3-man slip, it's -122. I personally stick with the 3-man slips. I want a little bit less variance, even though I'm giving up a little bit of expected value on that. I like the 3-man pick. I think it's a sweet spot for me when I make my DFS slips. We can see here, FanDuel, minus 128. That's better than our minus 122 or minus 118 odds. We can see here, DraftKings and Caesars both have this prop a full point above what we're getting on better picks. So we can take it at 22.5 when DraftKings and Caesars offer it at 23.5 at even money, which would mean if they dropped their line and we took the over on those books, it would be juiced to the over, which is exactly what we want when making our DFS slips. And you can go down the line, we can see minus 135, minus 139, and then PrizePicks, another DFS app, has this line bumped up a point just like DraftKings and Caesars. And you can see with this Josh Hart prop, over 4.5 assists, pretty much every sportsbook has it in the minus 130s, and Fliff gets up to minus 150, and we're still getting odds locked in at minus 118 if you're using a 5-man slip, or minus 122 if you're using a 3-man slip. And then we could round out our 3-man slip with Smith under 5.5 assists, and you see the same thing. 54.13% chance to hit on better picks, which is an optimal percentage for us to get. And we can see sportsbooks juice this to the under when we get a set payout for the over and under on better. So that's it. And it probably seems almost too simple for you, but that's genuinely the exact process that I followed every single day throughout the month of May. I wasn't spending hours researching games. I wasn't trying to predict every outcome, and I definitely wasn't chasing losses after a bad day. I simply followed the exact same process over and over and over again. Find strong opportunities, build quality entries, stay disciplined with your bankroll management, and trust the long-term results. And the OddsJam Fantasy Optimizer and Sharp Money tool did all the heavy lifting for me. If I saw value on the tool, I added it to my slip. If there wasn't value, I didn't make a lineup. And of course, if you guys want to test out the tools for yourself, when you use promo code TAKES on OddsJam, they'll give you a free week trial and 35% off your first month. And as you're going through your free trial, make sure to come back to this video so you can follow my exact process on how I made over $1,400 in a month as a $25 a unit better. And as you get started with profitable sports betting strategies, just remember, the goal isn't to win every single day. The goal is to consistently put yourself in a position where you have an edge against the sportsbook and let the math play out over time. So if you're someone who's been placing bets based off gut feelings, I challenge you to start approaching sports betting differently. Focus on value. Focus on finding an edge. And most importantly, focus on having a repeatable process. That's what helped me make over $1,400 in May, and it's the exact strategy I'm using every day moving forward. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe and let us know what you want to see next. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.